Hey everybody, it's your boy Exodious here, or most people know me as Will nowadays. So I'm sorry about the last 2 weeks. We were away in Ohio. We were doing some filming, we were dropping some stuff off in Michigan, just doing a bunch of cool things. We've been driving around a lot the past few days. And then last weekend we were recovering, because we drove to Ohio, which was roughly a 10-hour drive, then to Michigan, which was 5 hours, then to the lake, which was another hour. So then back, then home, then it was just a pain in the butt. So in total, we've probably driven about 32 hours in the past week and a half, past 2 weeks. And on top of that, we drove to Virginia. This last week on Tuesday and Wednesday, we drove to Virginia and we drove home for our little cousin's graduation. So I apologize for that. I'd like to keep a stricter schedule. Obviously, this is one of my last Lego sets, so we'll maybe have to invest in some more pretty soon. I'd also like to do something a little bit differently today. So let me start getting the box undone and all, and then we can kind of go from there. So this one I've been really excited for. My mom always knew that I loved Iron Man. Iron Man's my favorite superhero. I'd say he's one of my favorite now, but he probably is one of the superheroes that resonates most with me. Like I don't know, I love Iron Man. I love machines. I love working on stuff, fixing stuff. Most of you guys know all this by now, so that really doesn't come as much of a surprise. So I'll set this up back here for you guys. So today, rather than just having me, oh, we got stickers and stuff to put on it as well. It's pretty dope. So today, rather than just me building it and just making a time lapse out of it, I figured we could start using these little sessions where I sit down and build the Legos, maybe to talk. You know, maybe I can speak about something that's been on my mind or something I've been struggling with, both good and bad. It doesn't all have to be bad, you know. This is unfortunately, most of this is inspired by something bad that happened, but that doesn't mean that good can't come of it. So I figured today we'll kind of talk about some things that are on my mind and everything. What is this? So we have two different, oh, these are two different, okay, so we need both of these, it looks like. All right, so we'll start out with this one. It looks like it starts from a more base perspective. But I've been writing topics down in my notebook. I have a notebook that I carry around with me on the shoots and everything. And one of the things lately that I've kind of been struggling with, which I think it's a human thing, it may be like an imposter syndrome, that may be what it's defined as or classified as. But I've been struggling a lot lately with peaks and primes and things of that nature. Not prime lenses, but as in like your prime, the prime of maybe your career, the prime of maybe your life. I feel like throughout life we go through a bunch of different primes and a bunch of different peaks and a bunch of different valleys and things. But I'm constantly struggling and having a hard time just with, what if I've peaked already? And that sounds crazy to say, I know, because in the grand scheme of things, I really haven't done much. I have not done a whole lot at all in my life, the way I see it at least, you know. I feel like I've done a little bit more than maybe the average person or whatnot, but I don't even know if that's a valid way to look at it, considering like on average, people live 70 years, so they get a lot of time to travel or whatever. But I constantly, because I'm a very analytical person, I'm very number-based. Numbers is the thing that I'm best at, like when it comes to schooling or whatever. Math was something I never really struggled with. So I see a lot of life as analytics, and I know that's not really the way that you're supposed to look at life. But obviously there's a bunch of things we try to tell ourselves that we shouldn't look at things a certain way or whatever, but actually seeing them a different way, I feel like is a totally different animal. So I may spend this whole time talking and absolutely not get anywhere, absolutely just be yapping the whole time, which I do apologize for if that's how this turns out. But I struggle a lot with that, like questioning if I've already peaked in my life. You know, they talk about people, hopefully the air conditioning being on isn't too loud. But a lot of people talk about people that like peak in high school and stuff. And sometimes I question, I'm like, dang, did I peak in high school? Because I have so many fond memories of high school and all. Like, I feel like in high school, when I used to stream and stuff, that's when it was like, which I know I have a long time in my life to continue picking up my streams and stuff. And I was just doing so much more creative work when I was in high school, you know? I feel like I feared things a little bit less. Like I didn't fear things not going my way as much when I was in high school, which is just weird to think about. But like, when I was in high school, that's when I came up with the idea for Spvce. And that's when I first started streaming. So when I was in, I think I was going into, would it have been my junior year? I think when I was going into my junior year, or I was about to, it was going into the summer of what would have been my junior year, we ended up moving. So I've lived in a bunch of different places throughout my life. We've lived in, most of them were in Cleveland. When I was about 4 or 5, around the time that I was supposed to start elementary school, my parents moved us to Rock Creek. So I went to Rock Creek around the time that I started kindergarten. So I started kindergarten at Rock Creek Elementary School. It's off of 45. I started in the old building. Anybody that, like most of you guys probably don't know anything. There's probably nobody that went to that school that's watching this now. But we moved to Rock Creek because my parents wanted me to have a better education and stuff. And there's a lot of things in my family. I don't know if I fully feel like disclosing here. It feels like I'm missing a piece. I thought I had all of them. But issues with my parents and also, so my parents, they used some money from a passing in my family and all that they had gotten, and they moved to Rock Creek. They bought a nice house and everything. Obviously back then, housing prices and all that type of stuff were a lot different than they are nowadays. But yeah, they moved me to Rock Creek and I started going to school there and everything. And I really struggled with it, which I didn't consciously struggle with. I think it was more of a subconscious thing, because I was the only, at least as far as elementary school, I was the only black person there. So I know in a lot of cases, you know, people say whatnot, this, that, and another, but it's difficult when you don't have anyone that really looks like you. It's a difficult thing to kind of grasp in your mind, especially as a kid or whatnot, and you're getting picked on for things and all that you didn't necessarily have control over and you don't understand. And then a lot of my issue, I think, was because I didn't really have a support system in my father. You know, some people, you have a support system with your parents, but my mother, she had to work so much growing up. So my dad, he was a stay-at-home dad and he would take care of me and everything. So he taught me a lot. That's why I know a lot about the things I know about, like whether it be electronics or it be tractors. I got from my grandfather. So me and my grandfather loved working on tractors, but all the electronical and the wiring and stuff was from my dad. So when I was a kid, even when I was in Cleveland, and I say it a lot, so maybe I'm misinformed, but I say a lot you don't remember things from before the time you were 5, but my dad used to take me to work with him. So the times that he did work, he'd take me to work with him. So I can remember times when he worked at like a golf park or a golf, what's the name for it? Like a place where you golf at. I can't think of the word, sorry. This is a completely new idea. So he would work at the golf park or whatever you want to call it. And he would take me with him. I remember like riding around on the golf cart and stuff when he was working and doing stuff of that nature and everything. And I remember when my dad would go to like fix up houses, I remember he'd have friends and things that would call him to have him fix up houses or like help them when they were remodeling a house and do electrical and stuff of that nature. And he had me with him. So most of my childhood life, I was around my dad. And I tell people it sometimes, and it makes me feel bad now, but growing up, I didn't like my mom a whole lot. Not because I thought she was mean or anything, but just because she wasn't around. And I obviously wasn't old enough to like kind of put 2 and 2 together that she was having to work. So my dad didn't have a job. Not that he couldn't work, because when he had the opportunity to work and stuff, he did a good job. Most of my childhood, my mom was the one supporting us. So we grew up without very much money, you know, but I never went to bed hungry. My mom always made sure we had the best Christmases ever. I still don't even fully understand how she was able to do that, but she always made sure that we had the best Christmases ever. But we grew up just not having a lot of the things that my friends and everyone else had. So while my friends had like Xbox 360s and PS3s and all that stuff, like on Christmas we got like PS2s and Xboxes, and I didn't know any difference. So I grew up like all my friends and stuff had like head starts. They were playing Xbox 360s and stuff since like the womb. But I didn't get an Xbox 360 till I think I was 12 or 13. So this guy had moved in with us. He was one of my dad's friends that he had met. And he had been so I'm going off on 15 different tangents and everything. So I apologize if it's very hard to follow. So I'm just trying to give you guys some insight into like everything. Like, I'm just kind of going where my mind takes me. So if you don't like it, I apologize. You can mute me and just, you know, speed up the time lapse or whatever. But so these guys, their name, one of them's names was Kenny. I remember Kenny very well. So they essentially, long story short, put a camper on our property. My dad let them, and that didn't end very well because my dad, he's not the same person he once was, but my dad was a very ego-driven human being. So he was very quick, very short-tempered, very quick to get angry or whatever, you know, which I think he was actually justified in what had happened. So essentially they brought a camper in, and blah, 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 things didn't work out. So my dad kind of was like, you guys got to go somewhere, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. And then this guy that my dad met, his name was David. So he had moved in, and he moved into the camper and was living in the camper and everything. Let's see, which one is this? But when he moved in, he had an Xbox 360. So I had never had anything that new, but I'd go to school and like the new Call of Duty would drop and all my friends would be like, yeah, bro, I'm 5th Prestige and all that stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't know what any of that meant because I had never had a video game console like that. I had never, you know, we didn't grow up with any of that stuff. We didn't have flat screen TVs when everyone else had them. We didn't have like a lot of that stuff that a lot of people had. And that's not to say we had plenty of like that stuff really didn't matter to me growing up. I like being outside and working on tractors and all that type of stuff. I'm working on vehicles with my grandfather and walking and sports and exercising and stuff. But he had moved in, and I don't remember how we got onto it, but he essentially told my dad that I could play the Xbox. So I would go over there, and he had like a handful of games. I think he had MW2, he had BioShock, I think it was the original BioShock. And sorry, I'm trying to not get carried away. But he had BioShock, he had Call of Duty, but obviously Call of Duty was like my favorite game ever to play. Because I heard all my friends talk about it and I finally got an opportunity, so I would stay out there all day and night. It was the summer I think I went from 6th grade to 7th grade. Now before this, because I never had a console, I used to go to my buddy Dale's house, Dale Davis. He was my best friend growing up. Him and this kid named Wolfgang. I still am in contact with Dale, but I don't know what happened to Wolfgang. I don't know if he moved out of state or whatnot. But I would go over there and I'd hang out with him. We'd ride our bikes up to the creek. I'm like going back to the beginning of the story. We'd ride our bikes around, we'd go up to the creek. So I'd ride my bike like 2 miles. Like, I think I was like 11 or 12, maybe even 10. And I'd ride my bike a mile or 2 miles up the road to Dale's house. And then me and Dale would go to the creek. So we had this rotary park. We called it the creek and stuff in Rock Creek. And we'd go there and we'd look for like crayfish and stuff, and we'd ride around there and we'd hang out with the older kids and stuff that were like going into high school, or they were the older kids in middle school and stuff at that point in time. But we'd go and do that. But then one day he introduced me to Call of Duty, so Black Ops 1. And dude, I loved the zombies. There's times where I didn't really want to hang out with anybody, but I loved zombies so freaking much, I just wanted to play zombies. So I'd go over, me and him would like I don't know, it was just such a simpler time and everything. I didn't know all the stuff I know about zombies and all that stuff now, but it was just, it was incredible. So I fell in love with Black Ops 1. So when this guy gave me the opportunity to play his Xbox, he had MW2. I think Black Ops 1 was out at this time, but he only had MW2. So I'd go over there, I bought 200 feet Ethernet cables, and I ran them out from the router in our house to there. I didn't fully understand how any of that stuff worked, but I believe it was the Xbox 360 Elite. I think Dakota still has it. And it didn't have another Wi-Fi or anything, so I bought 200-foot cables and I ran it out there, and I would play there. He would be gone quite a bit, so I'd sit out there and I would play freaking MW2 with my cousin James for hours on end. I used to love that stuff so much. And he would introduce me to all his friends and all that stuff. So if you guys know Matt from my streams and everything, one of my best friends, Matt, he went to school with my cousin James. And they used to hate me. I was so obnoxious as a little kid playing with them and everything. But then I think the guy needed money or something, so he gave my dad the option of buying the Xbox 360 off him. So I think my dad paid $150 for the Xbox 360, and dude, it was so awesome. I remember when my dad, he was like, he needs some money, blah, blah, blah. He wants to sell his Xbox 360. I was like, yes, please, please, let's get it. So the first time that happened, because before I'd been going out to his camper where this guy was living, he had his clothes and stuff in there, you know, yada, yada. But I just remember the first day when I was able to bring the Xbox in the house, and it was so freaking awesome. So I started buying more games and stuff. I think I had bought Black Ops 1 and everything, so I wanted to play with my cousin. I wanted to play zombies and all that. And I had been considering buying World at War, but I don't know if I ever got around to that or not. So where was I going with all this? So that was kind of my start with video games and everything. Well then I played video games, I used to play with them. I used to love Minecraft and all that stuff so much. That stuff was so fun when I was a kid. And I'd do chores around the house to try to get money so I could buy games and stuff. It was awesome. So I guess flash forward from that, my dad got upset once. It was something with me and Dakota, and I don't think I had done anything. He broke the dang Xbox. And that was around Black Ops 2. So I would save up chore money and stuff, buy DLCs and everything, blah, blah, blah. Black Ops 1, Zombies was awesome, finally getting the map packs and all that stuff. And then comes Black Ops 2. So I was really hyped. I think I got Black Ops 2 at launch or something of that nature. But I think my dad had thrown the Xbox on the ground at some point, so it had broken the disk drive in it, so I couldn't play it at all. And it sucked so bad, because that was back in the days when we didn't have all the games were not downloadable. One sec, guys. I'm trying to, I'm a little lost here. All right, so we have this one, that's done. So it just sucked so bad. I used to download Minecraft, Minecraft remakes of the map so I could play it. Because I didn't have another way, I didn't have another option, there was nothing else I could do. I'm a little confused. So it's showing this, but these aren't on the same, that wouldn't make any sense if they were on the same thing. Unless this, oh, okay, so this goes then like this. Okay. So it was broken for a while, and then I remember on Christmas, okay, this is how this kind of feeds back into it. So that Christmas, my parents, they bought us, which obviously is probably my mom, but she bought us another Xbox 360, so we had two 360s. So I kind of weaseled my way, which it wasn't necessarily, now looking back and everything, the right way to do it. I kind of weaseled my way because Dakota wanted to play the nice Xbox and everything, and I was like, well, Dakota, what if I give you the broken Xbox, and that can be your Xbox, and I'll take the good Xbox? Because I just want to play Call of Duty and blah, blah, blah. And around that time was around the time I wanted to get into competitive Call of Duty and everything. So me and Matt, we would grind and stuff, and then he had this friend Marth that was kind of into that stuff, so we tried to compete in tournaments and everything, and we found this guy's name was Elky. And we kind of rode out the end of Black Ops 2. There were a lot of issues and stuff and blah, blah, blah aside, but my mom just like, she always did an incredible job of, despite how we came up and everything, making sure we had everything we wanted. And like, I always had like it wasn't, but we were very content, you know, like we found simpler ways to be happy, and like where everyone else gets like hundreds of dollars of stuff for Christmas, we weren't getting that, but that never really truly bothered me. So I don't really know where to go from there with the conversation, but that's just to say, like, my mom worked a lot growing up, so it sounds terrible, but like I didn't know, maybe it wasn't necessarily a matter of not liking my mother, I just didn't know her a whole lot because she worked so much. She was so busy working. She often worked 2, 3, maybe 4 jobs. I remember a time in my life, so she worked for this place called Res Care in Cleveland, and she'd work at Res Care all day. She'd drive in extremely long ways. It was like an hour to an hour and 15 minutes from our house to drive to Cleveland, because she had kept the same job we had when we lived in Cleveland. And she'd drive there, and on the weekends, at night, she would work Res Care was the place she worked on the weekends. And then she'd work at First American in Cleveland during the weekdays. So she didn't have a lot of time at home and everything. So whereas like my dad was my hero growing up, I wasn't conscious enough to like realize these things and whatnot, and the reason why she had to work so hard. So it's kind of difficult for me growing up. My dad was like not a very empathetic type of father, not a father that like you fall, you scrape your knee or whatever. He kind of gives you a hug or whatever. Like I tell people, and they may think I'm exaggerating, but my dad didn't like, I don't think my dad really hugged me or apologized to me or said he loved me until I was like 14 years old. And that sounds like not a lot, because I don't think a lot of people realize that they maybe didn't have the most compassionate or the most loving parents growing up or whatever, so that we can see that as normal. But like I feel like that does a lot to someone's psyche, just not hearing that. And I can't recall, I think my grandparents probably like were more with the I love yous and that type of stuff, but my dad just was not that type of person and everything. So like I said, I don't think he apologized to me. I don't think we ever like it was always kind of like he was right or whatever, you know. Oh shoot. So I guess that doesn't really very off topic from everything else. I'm kind of bouncing around, you know. It'll get better maybe as this all goes on, but that's just to say, like, I grew up in kind of a funny situation. So back to, I guess, where I had started. I don't even know if that stuff really ties in. I have this like fear that I've peaked, you know, because I look at numbers and I'm such an analytical person. So like I'm constantly analyzing like my business numbers. You guys know I run a videography business and everything. And I'm like, gosh, what if like our best year is behind us, you know, and things like that. And it's something I really struggle with on a day-to-day basis. I'm like, with streaming, I'm like, gosh, what if I already peaked, you know? And that's not to say I've done anything incredible, because I'm with you. I don't think I've done anything substantial to like warrant like this insane massive peak or anything. It's just something that I struggle with a lot. It's like, what if I've peaked already? What if blah, blah, blah? What if this and that? So it's a difficult concept to get over in my head. So whenever things aren't like going the best, I'm like, gosh, what if it's over for me? What if it's back to the 9 and 5s, or like 9 to 5s, or what if it's like this, or what if it's that? And today I can speak about it, for some reason I can speak about it in a lot more positive light than I normally do, because normally it's something that just I'm constantly trying to wrap my brain around. But yeah, it's just it's something that I struggle with a lot. It's like this feeling of peaking in primes and everything, and like I deal with it a lot when it comes to physical appearance and things of that nature. That's part of the reason I do like I don't do a lot of working out, but I ran the other day, and I've been trying to, for the last few years, I do like quite a few push-ups every morning and night and everything, just trying to stay in good shape, because I don't want to ever say that like my peaks behind me or my primes in the past or something of that nature. That scares me. So I have a hard time sometimes when it comes to like Call of Duty, for example. I have a hard time because I'm like, dang, our prime, like Call of Duty's prime and innovative years as far as I see it are behind them. So I have this struggle, this constant struggle with like, am I washed up? Is my creativity all behind me? Is like blah, 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 this and that. It's so stupid, but it's something that I struggle with on a daily basis. I also struggle a lot with like comparison and things of that nature. Like I'll see, excuse me, for example, like other people I went to school with or something buying homes or whatnot, and I'm like, dang, like I'm not fully in that position yet, but that's also because I'm self-employed. My kind of progressive journey and everything works a little bit different than everybody else's. Or I see like a videographer who I think's dope, and I'm like, dang, I'm never going to, will I ever have the opportunity to be that dope? You know, or is my best years behind me? Or like, we have years where we have a lot of weddings or something. And then the next year will be kind of slow or whatever. And it just, I struggle with that a lot. I struggle with like feeling adequate. A lot of times I struggle like, it's just a lot of things, you know, a lot of things that everyone probably deals with and everything. But sometimes I get to a point where I'm like, is it even worth it? You know, making the videos or whatever, and is it even worth streaming and everything? Because I don't get a lot of time just to sit and enjoy things anymore because of the streaming or whatnot, or every other thing that I'm trying to do. I go from like, how does this work? I go from one thing to another. So my mornings, I normally start out with editing, or if I have a shoot or whatever, but normally most mornings I spend editing. Once I finish up my professional editing, I move to the free space editing and stuff. If Jeremy needs help with something, I normally go and help Jeremy. I just bounce around a lot. So sometimes it's like, is all of this even worth it? Because sometimes it's so much effort. But that's why I'm trying to find more things that I just enjoy sitting and doing. Like the Lego stuff is really dope. I've really enjoyed doing this. That's why I'm trying to find a different formula to work. Because I feel like anybody can upload a time lapse. I feel like a time lapse you can just film on your phone. But the thing that people kind of start to like about someone is their personality or whatever. And I love creating videos. Like it's genuinely, I remember as a kid, my dad used to have video cameras and stuff, and I genuinely just used to love sitting out the window, because he wouldn't really let me take them outside. He was very protective of things, and things had to be taken care of a certain way, and blah, 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 this and that. But I used to just love sitting with the video camera, just aiming it out the window and like pointing it at different things and all that type of stuff. I genuinely love creating things. I've always loved movies and stuff since I was a little kid, which I didn't grow up with the traditional movies and stuff that everyone else grew up with. I grew up watching like horror movies and stuff, and that's what me and my dad would do kind of to bond. There's only a few things me and my father bonded over. And one of those things was music. That's why I have such a great love for music and all. And another of them was movies. We'd sit out in the living room on the weekends when I wouldn't have school or whatever, and we'd sit out and we'd watch movies all night, and we'd fall asleep to like horror movies and stuff. And it sounds insane because I was like a 5 or 6 year old kid, but like that's what we liked, you know? That's what we bonded over. And I wanted that connection with my father so bad that anything, like any opportunity I'd have to kind of bond with him and all, that's what I do. Plus there were so few things that we didn't argue about. It was, that was one of those things. We sit out, we watch horror movies on the weekends. And then like, I remember when a new album would come out. So I remember there's a few specifically. So when Snoop Dogg's Rhythm, my mom, okay, so I guess to kind of start from the basis, so my dad got into a lot of accidents and things growing up. Like, not even growing up, just in his life, he got into a lot of car accidents and things. So when he would be in the hospital and all, my mom would normally give him CDs. So my dad had a lot of CDs. So that's kind of was my mom's thing. Like, my mom would get him, if she saw something, she saw an artist that he liked or whatever, she was at the store, she'd buy him CDs. So I remember one of those CDs, Snoop Dogg Rhythm and Gangster. I love that CD to this day. It's one of the only Snoop Dogg albums I really am into. But I remember she bought him that. Me and my dad would sit out in the living room. I remember when the Carter 3 dropped, me and my dad sat out. We sat out in his truck listening to music. But yeah, it was just like a lot of my childhood is based around like music or things of that nature, and that's kind of where my love for those things come from. Sorry, this is hard trying to continue talking. Is this what's supposed to... No, it's supposed to be a little white head, but I don't see it anywhere. So if you guys are liking this format a little bit better, let me know down below. If you don't, if you'd rather me just make time lapses, then I guess let me know that as well, you know. But maybe if you guys gave me topics or whatever, I don't know if I even really got anywhere with what I was saying, but like, I just struggle a lot with that, like questioning if I'm in my prime, analyzing numbers a little too closely. A lot of stuff of that nature. There's no head in here for this. Did they show a different point where to... Hey, what are you doing? Oh yeah, they did. Okay, so we'll put this here as a bookmark. Oh, okay, that's one of the cat toys. Okay, so there's supposed to be... There was supposed to be like a head, and I just can't seem to find it. I don't know what any of this stuff is. I don't know if these are just extra pieces. Okay, here's this. Oh, you know what? It's still in the bag. I was like, dang. That normally always happens, but this does not. I don't think this is the right one, but we'll rock with it regardless. Okay, so. All right, and then we have this one. So it looks like this is supposed to go right like that, and then this goes over top. Okay, so that goes forward, and then it looks like these little arms go like this, which is pretty cool. Oh man. You know, speaking of fears and things, I have a fear of losing these pieces. Because you know how cats are, destroying stuff and blah, blah, blah. All right, so those are all built. These are the little characters, 2 little Iron Man suits. I don't know where they go necessarily yet. All right, so we will move on to these. This might be the coolest set that we've done so far. This is dope. Sylvester's going crazy mode. All right, so I guess while we're on the topic, so Iron Man is what most people, if anyone knows me, is my favorite superhero. So I guess another cool story is how maybe how I got into the MCU and stuff in the first place. So I know most people have probably watched the movies from the get-go or knew about it from the get-go, but I didn't really start watching the MCU until Black Panther came out. So Black Panther had come out. I was living with my Aunt Esther. I think my mom had already moved down to North Carolina by that point. But I had went and seen Black Panther, and it was awesome. Like, I think I went and saw Black Panther like 8 times or whatever. And then while Brittany would be at work or whatever, I'd go back and I'd watch all the movies. So me and Sylvester would sit, and I just went like one by one watching all the movies. So I had a lot of back catalog to catch up on by that point in time. But I watched Black Panther. It was so awesome. And then I listened to the soundtrack. That was freaking incredible. The Kendrick soundtrack and all that stuff. And I just kind of fell in love with it. And I started watching them back and everything. And gosh, when I first, because I was never really into superheroes and stuff before that. Like my dad had talked about them and I'd see them on the TV every once in a while or whatever. Like I remember distinctly being at one of my childhood friends' homes. His name was Brandon, and I remember being at his house, and I think it was Age of Ultron came on the TV, but it didn't really mean anything to me back then. But boy, once I got started watching all the Marvel movies and stuff, it was nuts. And it kind of progressed into everything else. Like, I'm a really big fan of The Boys now. I love The Boys. The Boys is like my favorite TV show ever. There's Invincible. I freaking love Invincible. I love all the Marvel characters. I've never been the biggest fan of like the DC superheroes. I think they're dope, but I think a lot of my issue with the DC superheroes is just they're very overpowered. And it's hard for me to like, I don't know, it's just, like, if you really think about like the DC superheroes, and like the Flash and stuff, like the Flash shouldn't lose to anybody. You know what I'm saying? With like his super speed and everything, there just isn't, I don't know, it's such a difficult thing with the DC stuff, because I'm like, you guys are so insanely overpowered. Like, it doesn't even make sense why this is a challenge for you right now. So. Yeah, I just don't know, like, I don't know how in-depth to go in things, and I don't really know what to talk. So if there's any topics, or you guys would like to get my opinions on things, I'd love to like just make a list of topics or something to talk about in the future. And like I said, if you guys just like the time lapse better, I figured this would be a cool little, I don't know, way to maybe differentiate it or whatnot. If you guys don't like the lack of focus maybe on the Legos or whatnot, I completely understand as well. It's funny, I don't know if you guys can hear it through the mic, but our neighbors, they always like hang out and like listen to music and stuff on the weekends. Sometimes on the weekdays, and you can always hear it. They have like this little shed behind their house or whatever that I think they have their speakers in and everything, so they're out there jamming. I think it's dope. It doesn't, like, it never bothers me or whatnot. I personally prefer, in this case, having neighbors that like listening to their music and hanging out and stuff, because then when I want to listen to my music or we watch a movie loud or whatnot, I don't have to feel bad. Because for the longest time, like when we lived with my mom or whatnot, I had pretty much my movie theater and stuff in our bedroom, but I could never really turn it up the way I wanted to because I didn't want to disturb anybody, and my stuff gets pretty loud. That's another thing. Me and my dad used to love like having music wars and listening to loud music and turning movies up and blaring them and stuff like that. So that's another thing that I really enjoy. It's one thing that when we get to the point of like maybe being in the city or something, it's something that I'll have to obviously very much consider. Because that's something you can't really do in an apartment building. You can't be blaring music and... Okay, so we need to just build a whole bunch of these things, it looks like. Oh, 4. Okay, so that's 1. And we need to build 4 more. It's weird that the air conditioner has been on so much. This morning I had to, we had to fix our sink. It was leaking a little bit. So the lines that supply the faucets were leaking a little bit. So and I learned a little bit about plumbing with it as well. So the lines that our house uses, I can't think of the name of them anymore. butane or something, I don't know. They're the gray pipes. And I guess they have they're very prone to corroding, like the pipes themselves. So they had corroded to a point where it was, Malcolm, hey! Malcolm, stop. So they had corroded to a point where they had started leaking. And Brittany had noticed it this morning, so I did some research, went up to Lowe's. I found these dang things, they're called shark bites. And dude, they're so cool. So I thought, normally when you put like plumbing or whatnot, I don't have a lot of experience with plumbing. My grandfather did a lot of that type. My grandfather could do everything. Like he built his own garage and everything at the place they lived. My grandfather and grandmother cleared out the land that their mobile home's on. And then they bought their mobile home brand new. It was a lot like our mobile home, except theirs is the slightly shorter one that doesn't have 2 bathrooms. That's 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. Ours has 3 bedrooms. One's too small to really be a bedroom. But Malcolm, dude.
He wants the fucking cat food.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
So I never had a lot of experience with plumbing or anything of that nature, but it was so cool. They're called shark bites, I think was the name of them. So essentially, you cut off, so I bought this little, it's called a plumber's multi-tool. I thought it was pretty cool because I have just general multi-tools, like Swiss knife multi-tool or whatever the heck. Leatherman, because Jeremy gave me one. But I've heard of multi-tools, obviously everyone's heard of multi-tools. But they had this plumber's multi-tool and I needed something just in case to deburr the piping and everything. Luckily when I cut it cut really clean. But the shark bites, I thought normally you need a tool. I see people online with the Milwaukee tool that like crimps down the metal onto the pipe to kind of lock them together. But these didn't even need that. It was pretty dope. You just pressed them together in you literally took the end, you made sure it was deburred and everything, and you pressed it as far as it could go into it. And it's awesome. Like, I love seeing technology and stuff like that. Like, I guess that's technically not technology, but I don't know. I think that stuff is so freaking cool. Like, when they make it so simple so you can do, I love just doing things on my own. I'm a do-it-yourself kind of person. I kind of like the projects and the learning process and all that stuff. But that was just awesome. I thought we were going to have to hire a plumber. I thought we were going to have to do this and that, blah, blah, blah. But it was really dope. Turned out really well. You know, I've been on a kick lately. I've been watching a lot of stuff about like zombies and everything. I freaking love zombies. And it's funny to think about, had I not been such a fan of video games. Speaking of which, one of my favorite video games growing up, because like I said, we had PS2, we had the original Xbox and stuff, was Medal of Honor, dude. I loved Medal of Honor. And my favorite Medal of Honor, so I had Frontline, and I really liked the campaign on Frontline, or on Medal of Honor. So I think sometimes me and my brother would play. But one of my favorite Medal of Honor games was Rising Sun, because on Rising Sun, you could put bots in. And it was so fun. I remember me and Dakota, I think Dakota did it with me. If not, I know that I did it. We'd put the bots in and then we just like play against the bots. So growing up, because like, I think by the time that we had got the Xbox and all, like the OG, or by the time we got the OG Xbox, I think that like the Xbox services and everything on it were shut down. And I don't even really know how any of that stuff worked on the old consoles. I would always see it in the menu and I never understood how online gaming and all that stuff worked. So when I finally got like my own 360 and when I would play with my friend Dale on his PS3, I was just like, I was blown away. My mind was just blown by the fact that you could play video games online with people that like were nowhere near you. Because I didn't get to see my cousin James a whole lot up until that point. So me and him got really close from that and everything. But it's crazy to think about, without Black Ops 1, without me begging my dad to get the Xbox and all that stuff, I don't like what a different position I could have been in life. Because that stuff led me to want to get a PC and get a capture card and edit videos and stuff. And then like, that's my job now, which is so awesome. I love it. So incredible. It's just strange. All right, guys, that wraps that up. That was awesome. It definitely took a little bit longer than I was fully expecting and all. So I kind of am gonna do some with the audio and blah blah blah. You guys will at this point have already experienced it and all. But hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If there's any topics you'd like me to talk about next time, or any specific Lego set you'd like to see me build, or anything you'd like to hear me speak about, I'd love to try to fit that in. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, enjoyed my talks. I'm sorry I'll get better at this as time goes on. If you'd like, come by the stream tonight. I'll probably be streaming as usual around 5:30 to 9:30, a nice clean 4 hours. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you guys later. Peace out, homies.